It happened yesterday.
The death of Pope Emeritus, Benedict XVI. He was the first German pope in 1,000 years. In many ways, a guardian of Vatican traditions, he was a respected Catholic theologian, a professor, and he played the piano. By his own admission, a weak leader who struggled with the formidable Vatican bureaucracy. Seth Doane is in Rome.
A scholar, academic, and fierce defender of the faith, he was conservative to the core. But this most orthodox of popes did the most unorthodox thing when he became the first pontiff in 600 years to resign. Burying a retired pope is also unprecedented in modern times. Saturday evening, the current Pope Francis paid tribute, calling Benedict XVI a noble, kind man who was a gift to the world. When Benedict retired in 2013, he acknowledged in Latin that the strains of duty had become too much. He was stepping down as the church was rattled by sex abuse and corruption scandals.
You think of Pope Benedict as such a conservative, but in resigning, it was a revolutionary thing.
It was a pretty progressive thing to do. In some ways, he was very much in line with this idea of modernizing the church. I think it reflects his attention to the fact that we're in a contemporary age. You know, before the modern age, popes didn't live so long.
Father Mark Lewis is an American Jesuit priest and rector of the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome.
I think one of the things that's fascinating is he's one of the few popes who wrote books during his papacy. So he did 3 volumes in Jesus Christ. And what's really interesting about those books is he didn't write them as Pope Benedict. He wrote them as Joseph Ratzinger.
Born in 1927, Joseph Ratzinger was the son of a policeman and a cook, growing up in a small Bavarian town in Germany. He joined the Hitler Youth, as was compulsory, and later was conscripted into the German army. He'd wind up deserting and turned to religion, rising through the ranks of the church. As cardinal, he ran the organization charged with defending church doctrine and developed a reputation as a strict conservative. Maintaining those hardline views as pope, he strongly opposed gay marriage and the ordination of women. And in 2009, he caused an uproar by dismissing condoms as a way to prevent AIDS. While Benedict was also criticized for not taking action against bishops who ignored or covered up clerical sex abuse, he was the first pope to publicly meet victims of abuse, and he apologized. As pope, he was credited with reaching out to other faiths, including Judaism. He was a linguist, a bookworm, and a pianist who loved Mozart's music. News of the former pope's death came as we were speaking with Father Lewis Saturday morning.
I think he was a very gentle man, and I think he tended to listen to people and talk very, very much from the heart.
That first point, his theology. Yeah?
Bad news.
What?
Pope died.
The Pope just died?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. What does that mean for you?
Well, I think in a way we're sort of fortunate that we had at least a few days of preparation. It also gives us a chance to really reflect on that legacy, on what he gave to the church, and that example of resignation and living a life of isolation in his last years.
The last pontiff to resign was Pope Gregory XII. That was 1415, and he moved hundreds of miles from Rome. But Benedict stayed close, calling himself Pope Emeritus and living in a monastery set in the sprawling Vatican gardens. Was it difficult as a church to have 2 popes, a former pope and a living pope at the same time?
I think Benedict was able to make it work because he was so willing to move back out of the limelight. He was very good about not overshadowing Pope Francis. I think Francis saw him as someone he could consult with, and maybe the only person in the world who knew what he was going through.
Pope Francis will preside over the former pope's funeral mass Thursday, and from tomorrow, Benedict's body will lie in St. Peter's Basilica so the faithful can pay tribute.